So, we all know about cars like the Chaparral 2J and the Tyrrell 6-wheel F1 thing. But what if I told you there were cars equally as crazy that came out of man's desire to win races? Here's 5 race cars that I think are weird, cool, and to a certain extent unique. Number 3, the BP Craft A86 JGTC GT300 race car. It was in 1999, and pretty much every JGTC team were using newer, more advanced cars. But the BP Craft racing team decided otherwise. They decided to turn a 1988 Toyota Corolla into a race car that can compete with the competition. The BP Craft 86 only really looked like an 86. Under the composite 86 body was a custom-made space frame designed specifically for that car. It used custom-made suspension parts and adopted an inboard pushrod suspension system. Basically, the suspension and dampers were inside the body of the car rather than being under the body. Some proper racing stuff. They swapped the 4AGE for a newer engine, one with more proven racing potential at this level. An engine with probably the coolest name that I have ever heard. The 503E. The 503E is a super heavily modified 3S GTE made to withstand higher boost pressures and racing fuel. Or was it a 503E? You see, from all the research that I did, the internet and the 5 blogs from 2010 stated that the car ran a 503E, but that doesn't make sense to me for 2 main reasons. The first one being, the car raced in the GT300 class, meaning there's a performance cap of 300 HP, give or take a few ponies due to the ruling systems that they use. If the Craft team used a 503E in the GT300 class, that would be like powering a blender with an LS3. Yep. They would not be able to use all of that potential because of the application they're using the engine for. And secondly, the engine itself. In this original footage from Video Option, the engine showed has Toyota branding on it. Branding that the 503E did not have because it was a separate casting of the 3S. The timing gear cover and the intercooler position suggests that the engine is in fact a Phase 3 TRD tuned 3S GTE with a single AX53 Apexi turbo, which honestly I'll argue is cooler than a 503, purely because of the fact that 3S that they used was basically just a modified production engine. And last but not least, all of that was mated to a 6-speed sequential transaxle made by Hewland. The car did amazingly well for what it was. It gave stiff competition to Ferraris, Porsches, GTRs, and Supras. It finished 10th in the round 5 of the Fuji GT300 and qualified 3rd for the Suzuka 1000 kilometers, where it then finished 7th after an FD3S took it out. Genuinely watch Archive JGTC. It is genuinely amazing racing. Number 2. The Suzuki Cultus Pikes Peak. I call it a Cultus. It really isn't. Again, it really isn't. It just looks like one. Not a single part on this car is actually from a Cultus. Almost everything is custom, but you gotta buckle up, because this car is crazy. The car has 2 engines. Yes, 2 engines. 2 G16As with turbos, one on the front and one on the rear. They produced a combined output of 800 ponies and 840 pound-feet of torque. They have 2 separate sequential 6-speed transmissions that share linkages and are connected to the same center diff which by the way had an electromagnetic clutch. It had double wishbone suspension on all four corners and electronically adjustable dampers. This is 1991, by the way. With all that power and tech, the car only weighed 800 kg. Yes, 800. For reference, that's 930 HP per ton, which is better than a Bugatti Chiron Super Sport. Plus, at this time, the course was still dirt. 800 HP on dirt with literally zero safety equipment and no guardrails. Like, if you were off, you were off. It had to have aero, and aero it had. In fact, the aero had it. Massive front wing, massive rear wing, which had dual elements for even higher downforce, which it needed, and the crazy car had to have a crazy driver, right? Nobuhiro Tajima, also known as Monster Tajima. That is such a sick nickname. Monster Tajima drove this Cultus at the 1993 Pikes Peak in the Unlimited class. Needless to say, he absolutely crushed the course, and he posted a time of 10 minutes, 44, and 22 seconds. A course record for his class. I don't know about you, but that is what I call peak engineering. Peak engineering. Number 1, the Peugeot 806 Pro car. They should have called this thing the Pro Van. It was the 90s. Ford had come up with the Super Van, and Renault had come up with the Espace F1. Needless to say, both of them were truly insane vehicular creations, but neither of them actually raced. They weren't built in compliance with regulations for any racing series. They were built to shock people and bring attention to regularly boring cars and their brand image. But you see, Peugeot was different. Peugeot took the 806, took out its engine, and switched out the chassis for a 405 Mi16. The shell was completely stripped out and reinforced according to FIA regulations. But the engine is the most interesting thing to me. It ran a highly modified 2-liter inline 4. They used a 306 Maxi rally block, the same one from the rally car, and combined it with the head from their 405 Mi16 touring car from the previous year. It pushed around 280 HP and revved all the way up to 11,000 RPM. 11K, that is insane. All while the total weight stayed under 1,000 kilograms. And then they took it to the 24 hours of Spa. During qualifying, the van placed 12th overall and 3rd in its class. Keep in mind, most of its class were Audi Quattros and 320i's. It proved itself capable of outperforming the more conventional cars. Sadly, it did have to retire 10 hours into the main race because of severe mechanical issues. But regardless, the 806 is one of the coolest weird cars to ever race, in my opinion. And that is the list. Comment down below some unique race cars that aren't talked about as much as they should be. And I'll see you in the next video. Subscribe, please. Oh my god.